guys, thanks for being here today. I'm going to be reviewing both of the new Hourglass palettes for face. We've got the Ambient Lighting Edit Universe, and this is the Ambient Lighting Edit Universe Unlocked. Okay, so new packaging on the outside of these and kind of a tin feel to the overall palette, and I really think they're beautiful, both of them on the outside. But my plan is to shoot this video on 2 different days. So today I'm going to use the Universe palette. I'll be putting on all these steps. Right now all I have on is my foundation and concealer. So I'll put on all this and you can see that full look. And then tomorrow I will use the Universe Unlocked palette. And to me this one looks richer on a lot of levels. When I was first playing with this, I felt like maybe the bronzer in here was a little lighter, but it seems like the blush is a little bit more of a statement aspect to this one. So we'll see. I'm going to use that whole one tomorrow. And now before I get started, I'll point out what exactly is in this one. You've got the finishing powder here, and that's called Infinity Powder. That is something that's already part of Hourglass's line. We have the Strobe Blush, and this is in Vibrant Heat. We have the Blush in Luminous Rose. Up here is the bronzer in Glistening Bronze Light. And down here is the Strobe Powder in Supernatural Strobe Light. There's also a nice big mirror in here, but we're going to start off with some of this finishing powder. And I'm going to use that to set my under eye area. I don't have any powder on right now. And we're just going to see what that looks like as I put it on here. I feel like I get a nice like set effect from this powder. It doesn't seem like overly brightening. It just sort of sticks with the tone of what you've got and it doesn't seem to darken. As you can see, it's sort of like a pinky beige shade swirled with cream. There's probably a little bit of glow in it, but it's really hard to distinguish, you know? So I feel like I can kind of get by setting my whole T-zone with this and thinking, yeah, it sort of perfects, it takes any kind of tacky texture down a little bit, but I'm not looking overly glowy when I put it on, you know? All in all, I'm kind of looking for that product to play the part of a at least semi-matte setting powder. So there we go with that all over. I do feel like maybe the skin has just a teeny bit more glow than it had before. What happens if I put this more like right on here on top of the cheek? Would you see it even more? Yeah, you can see that little bit of a glow. Okay, but it's very soft and subtle. Alrighty, we're gonna move on to this bronzer and get a look at how much of a bronze effect we get here. All of these products do have some sheen. You're definitely gonna see some sheen out of the highlight, of course, but I see glow in all of these 4 products over here. So here's the bronzer going on. I feel like I totally see it in this one. There have been some palettes here and there that they've put out at the holidays where maybe the bronzer wasn't so intense. With this one, I feel like it really shows. Not in maybe a rich, dark way, but you know what I mean? Like I'm definitely seeing it here as I apply. But the idea with Hourglass's powders that are like this, they always say in their claims, create the perfect lighting wherever you go. That's what they call these ambient lighting powders. Gosh, I really like that soft contour. And I always feel like with pretty much all of these palettes that I've gotten over the years, I like how there's kind of an effortless quality to them. Like you don't feel like you're gonna screw it up real bad. You know, there's a softness to the powders. I don't feel like I'm working hard to build them up, yet I don't feel like there's some kind of trick to them either. You know, you just kind of place them on where you'd normally put bronzer and blush and highlight, and it just looks good. There's a pretty finish. It's never like super tacky or real over the top shimmer, but the glow is really gentle and pretty on these. By the way, the Infinity Powder, they say that fuses 3 shades of ambient powder: diffused light, dim light, and hypnotic strobe light. So there is definitely a little bit of glow in this, but that's interesting. They fused several different shades. And they say that there are 4 new ambient lighting powder shades in here, so that must be all of these 4 are new ones. This is the only thing that existed before this palette. Now guys, I'm really liking this bronzer. I think it's soft and easy. It looks really natural on the skin. Any amount of glow is super subtle. It just doesn't look like cheesy or too much. I really like it. Next up, I'm gonna double up on blush here. I'm first gonna use this softer shade. This is our color in Luminous Rose. This is so pretty, you guys, this color. Like, it's soft, but yet it really does show a pretty rose glow. See, isn't that lovely? It's delicate. It's a delicate blush, but you definitely see it. It's not like they popped it in there and it's doing nothing. Like, you really can see it on the cheeks, and it's interesting. It's a swirl of, looks like, of mauve and peach together. That's what that one is. Now this one, more of a bright pink mixed with just the softest looking like peach shimmer. So we're gonna get a little bit of that, and we're just gonna pop that right here so you can see the effect. Oh, it's so pretty. And it's just kind of hard to screw up, you know? Like, you put it on and then it's just instantaneous, pretty glow color to the skin, not too much of anything. I'm gonna just take a little bit just right across the nose for that natural kind of sun-kissed look. But look how we haven't applied real highlight to the skin yet. But every powder that we've put on top of this overall matte foundation, I'm actually using the Dior Forever 24-hour high perfection skin caring foundation with sunscreen, but it's matte. And everything that we've put on has just sort of built this really pretty glow on my skin. And these palettes don't come cheap, you know, they're $80. And I haven't always been over the moon about everything in these over the years. But when I feel like every single part of this is like playing its role and doing a really good job, you know, it makes me happy. It makes me feel like my purchase was worthwhile. Next, we're going to use our highlight. Again, this is in the shade Supernatural Strobe Light. It's a strobe powder, they say. So I'm going to get into that. Ooh, look at that brightening. I mean, it's really fascinating. I can't see any real powder or like evidence of it, but I'm suddenly bright there. It does not look like makeup though. That is so cool. I mean, I just placed another layer of powder on the skin with that highlight, but it does not look like anything. It just looks like glowy skin, you know, and to touch my skin, I've got no cream on it, but it just looks radiant. And I did put quite a bit of highlighter on there for you to see. Wow, I really like this palette. I do think it's doing everything I want it to do. I'm enjoying every part of it, from the infinity powder, which I think it's lovely to have something to set with, so that's great. From that to the bronzer, I thought that went on beautifully. Two blushes that I absolutely love. Those might be my favorite parts of everything, but then that highlight too, that just goes on like sneaky, sneaky highlight where you don't see powder, you don't feel like you see another layer of product, but you do see an absolutely gorgeous pearlescent glow on the skin. I love it. And somehow I still feel like the surface of my skin has sort of this matte veil over it, if that makes sense. Like, if I've used the word dewy already in explaining this, I don't think I was correct in saying that, because I look glowy, but yet this get up close and the surface of my skin is still like this kind of matte finish. Oh, and there was one other thing I wanted to do. Now that I've done all this stuff, I wanted to take a little bit more of the finishing powder and just go over and just see what that does on top of things. It looks like that can kind of possibly dial back the glow from the highlight just a little bit if you have to correct that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching my little demo with this. I will come back and show you what my finished look is like when I put on all the rest of my stuff. Alrighty guys, I just wanted to show you the finished look with that palette on my face and just seeing like realistically how that looks with a finished eye look and everything. On my lips, I'm wearing my Pat McGrath, the little mini trio in Divine Rose. So it's a lip liner, lipstick, and lip gloss. I think that pairs really well with the little hint of green on my eye. Another thing I'm testing out to review, the Instant Eye Palette from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the Smoky Eyes Are Forever. And I use this trio here, the green one, paired with a little bit of the dark brown and a little bit of the burgundy as well. Just deepening the crease with those shades. But I thought that turned out really nice. But yeah, that's my look. The whole glow on the skin is coming from that palette and that palette alone, because I went in with a matte foundation, and I think I'll do that tomorrow as well. I'll make sure my foundation is also matte so we can really look at the level of glow the other palette is giving us too, and I think we'll really be able to compare at that point. So thank you so much for watching this part, and I will see you tomorrow. Hello everyone, it's the next day and we're going to be jumping into the Universe Unlocked palette. So they call this a limited edition palette that features 2 best-selling and 3 brand new ambient lighting powder shades. So this is what it looks like on the inside. Overall, I get a richer, deeper vibe from this, except I kind of wonder about the bronzer actually being any deeper than the one in the last palette. But the blushes definitely have some intensity. This powder, actually what I may do is just gently set my under eye, maybe with some random loose powder, and then use this all over. The blushes are in Rose Heat. This one is Coral Flush. The bronzer is Radiant Bronze Light, and the strobe powder is Solar Strobe Light. They also say with this one, Hourglass will donate 5% of annual profits from this palette to the Non-Human Rights Project, a U.S. organization that works to secure fundamental rights for animals. So added little benefit here with this when you purchase this one. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm starting with the same foundation that I wore yesterday, the Dior Forever 24-hour wear high perfection skin caring foundation with sunscreen. It's matte. I've got concealer on also. I'm going to use a little bit of my Wet n Wild Photo Focus powder just because I think that this shade that's in this palette, to me it seems more of an all over the face finishing powder as opposed to something I'd really want all up in my under eye area. Then I'm going to take some of the Radiant Light powder and I'm just going to sweep this over my skin before I put anything else on it, so perhaps we can see any kind of effect this might have. There's a gentle glow to these powders, but it's not extreme. By these powders, I mean these kind of ambient lighting finishing powders. So as you can see, that matte complexion now does have a bit more sheen to it. And while this isn't necessarily deep, it's not as brightening as you would notice the one in the last palette being the Infinity powder. Now we're gonna go over to the bronzer here. And definitely, am I seeing glow in these shades? I'm seeing more of like a satin finish in here. We definitely have shimmer in the highlight, and you're gonna have a soft glow in this bronzer shade. Let me start applying. See, to me on this one, the bronzer requires even more building. I'm gonna try to do a little contour with it. It's super duper soft, which is interesting because the vibe of everything else takes me deeper. I mean, I feel like I'm really building it to get like that much contour. And you will notice even in a compared finger swatch between these two bronzers, the one and the other one is deeper. This one almost feels like just a hint down from my skin tone maybe. And it's just not showing a whole lot. I don't know if that could perhaps even vary by the swirl in here because, you know, like I've got a lot of lightness. I can see the deeper elements of the swirling, but like it's just showing up really light on me. Now we're going to move on to the blushes. I'm going to do it kind of like I did with the last palette. I'm going to start with the lighter of the two. Really pretty. Oh, it's so hard to argue with the blush. That is gorgeous, that coral shade. We're talking subtle glow as far as that goes. Like all these elements are going to come together to provide some glow to the skin, but it's not going to be over the top. That coral blush is dynamite. Now we're going to use some of this one. Looks more berry, and that's called Rose Heat, what I just dipped into. That can definitely go far in terms of color. I'm practically using it to accentuate my cheekbone a little bit where I felt like I couldn't contour so much with this one. I really like both the blush tones. To me, that's kind of the strength of this palette, are those colors. But we've still got the strobe light highlighter to use. They call this a metallic champagne color. The shade name is Solar Strobe Light. And while I'm really seeing it on my skin, it seems a little less intense or bright than the other. Like I can see that glow, but it might be ever so slightly more subtle than the last palette. Still showing for sure because you can see that glow coming right down to the apple of the cheek. It's just a little deeper shade. Yeah, there's the highlight shades compared. That's the one from yesterday's palette and that's today's. Also in terms of the bronzer shades, that was yesterday's and that's today's. I felt more ease of application with yesterday's color. But anyway, we're getting that highlight all around. But lastly, I'm going to take a little bit of my finishing powder in the Radiant Light shade, and I'm just gonna let that come all around. There is a beautiful kind of softening that happens with that color all over the skin. I was noting that as I was experimenting with this palette outside of this video. While it may not have all of the like set the under eye kind of benefits that I feel with the other powder, it really does make the whole complexion just look very ethereal and pretty. So there you go. There's all the things applied from the Universe Unlocked palette. While there are beautiful things in both palettes, I found it a little odd that most things in this one trended a little deeper, but yet the bronzer was not. So even if someone with a richer skin tone is like, I'm going to approach that palette because I feel like it's better suited to my skin, but then the bronzer doesn't really do as much for you. If it's borderline frustrating me, I think it would frustrate someone with deeper skin as well, is my point. Otherwise, I really do like this palette. I think everything in it is beautiful. I think they're contributing to a great cause with the Non-Human Rights Project. But if I'm picking an ultimate favorite, it would be the Universe palette, because this one, I mean, I had no gripes really about anything. I love the blushes just as much, if not more, than I love these blushes today. The highlight worked really well for me, and this powder becomes a little more multi-purpose, not just as a beautiful finishing powder, but something I can actually like set with, like under eye, T-zone. It can serve that powder function for me, and then the bronzer just showed even better on my skin, more effortlessly. But I will go ahead and finish the rest of my look, and I'll show you how it all comes together after using this. Alrighty guys, here's my finished look wearing the Universe Unlocked palette. On my eyes, I'm wearing this Too Faced Christmas Coffee palette, which looks frustratingly similar to the Fruitcake palette. Like, they first released that one and then this. I feel like someone probably said, those two are so similar, like we can't just pop them out at the same time. People will think we put out the same palette. Like, the accent shades are the same, lots of warm brown. I'm practically a little offended at how close those are, but anyway, I've got that on the eyes. I'm wearing the Clinique lipstick in Nude Pop on my lips, paired with a really deep lip liner from NYX in a shade called Espresso. So guys, we have two really strong palettes here. I enjoy elements of both. There's one where it's like, it's not 100% working for me, and it is an $80 palette, okay, each of these. So at that price, I think it does make me a bit more demanding of wanting 100% quality and 100% like aligning with my preferences as far as what's inside. And I feel like this one totally does, and this one falls a little bit short for me. And it just makes you wonder why the bronzer doesn't show up as much when so many of the other elements are just a little bit deeper, and it feels like just even a little bit better suited to a richer skin tone. Then they pop in a bronzer that's even lighter than the one in here. I don't quite get that. But I do think it's really nice that a portion of the profits from this go to a good cause. I think that's really cool. I wish they'd do that with this palette. But if we're just talking the palettes themselves, which one do I like better? I'm leaning toward this one for sure. So thank you guys so much for your time. I hope it was helpful to see them both in action. Let me know your feedback in the comments section. How do you like to use these palettes? When you open one up, do you really like to be able to take advantage of every single thing in it? Or do you just use portions and then draw from other makeup that you already have? Another thing that I didn't do in these videos that I probably could have done was use some of these shades on the eyes. I could see bronzers being used on the eyes, highlighter shades as well. So just keep that in mind, that the multitasking doesn't end just with the different face colors. So again, thank you guys so much for your time today. I've got more reviews coming, so stay tuned. I love you. Bye.